happy to be back here with the wonderful Good Morning Uganda crew. And of course, we are back at it. Serious business, politics, economics, social welfare. How have you been? How have you been doing? How have you been faring? Well, I can say that where we are at right now, there is quite a lot of conversation, but I'm also sure that there is a lot that my colleagues here have to catch up to speed with me. Speaking of Robert, Mollen and Felix. But well, today is also quite a Monday that we have lots of things that we need to be discussing. Looking to be very specific, looking at child labor. Now today, if you actually did not know, it is the International World Day Against Child Labor, a day that was put into place from way back in 2002. Now the motive here is to ensure that we take down the statistics and ensure that children are safe and they're kept away from all these child labor. First of all, it's very illegal, but we also know that it is very detrimental to their upbringing. But all that aside, Mollen, Robert, Felix, how have you been doing? Robert, how are you?
Oh, very fine.
You do look fine.
Yes. Yes. I must say, because I had a lovely weekend, touring a bit of Uganda. Though in that we lost one of our friends. We just hope that his soul rests in eternal peace. Away from that, I was also following up some good news for the farmers, more so in Uwero, where we know that very soon, if all goes well, this issue of middlemen getting a lot of money from farmers and farmers getting little money may come to an end, because there are members from the royal family of United Arab Emirates that are going to set up a mega factory there, a mega factory that is on the side of Bukarasa. And we believe there is going to do so much of value addition to the fruits that are produced in that area, things like tomatoes, pineapples. You know, these are perishables, and farmers have been exploited for a long time, because this middleman comes and tells you, if I'm not buying, and you look at him, if he goes, these things are going to rot, and you throw them away. Then you're left with no option apart from saying, Mpazompa, give me what you can give me, so that my kids can get what to eat. So with this factory, if it sees the light of day, and it's our prayer, then that nonsense, you know what hurts for the farmers? This middleman does not even plant a single seed in the soil.
Yes.
He doesn't. He's just a person who will come with money and then tell you, Robert, in this acre, I'm giving you maybe 2 million. Yet it's worth about 5 million. Then he goes to another farmer, so dominates, sets a price, and they're in a group. And the farmer remains in absolute poverty year after year. You
know, I've come to a realization, Robert, that the business of being a middleman or a middlewoman here in Uganda, it's a very lucrative. And these people, they technically don't do anything, but they earn quite a lot. And I'm wondering, since when did we even start making this as a business? I can tell you one thing for sure. In all sectors, there is a loophole where you will find a middleman or a middlewoman, even where it doesn't necessitate. So that's what I'm saying. It's very lucrative, and it's no wonder we are hearing very many people being, middlemen and middlewomen. So I don't know how we're going to bridge that gap, but I know that we need to do it with a lot of urgency. Mollen, welcome back from the weekend.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing? Thank you for holding,
the fort.
Yes.
I am telling you, it is strong enough. But I'm happy you're back, and I'm sure Uganda is. But good morning, and obviously we're always here on Monday to make sure that when we're getting here away from the weekend and into the week, at least there is that, kind of good mood. And that's what we do here. I want to believe so. Because usually when people are coming from the weekend, there is that tendency when you feel like, Monday shouldn't have come. And there's this whole thing about Monday blues. But we make it easy here. And obviously, it's not all merry. I'm still feeling bad. Our judge is still sick.
Yes.
And yesterday he did come out to say that he's feeling a bit better, but then again he still tested positive.
Yes.
So our prayers really are still going on to the president of Uganda, Dr. Museveni. for him to get well, and of
He's
course,
a very strong man. He's going to pull out of this.
And I like that
Yes.
he is continuously informing us about his status through the tweets, through all the statements. He says, Bazukulu, you know, be calm, I'll be better. And it was interesting. I did see a lot of people on social media also coming up to say, Jaja, we feel bad. What can we do? What can we do? People want to actually be there and make sure that he gets better. To me, that was really interesting.
We are watching
Not-
different words.
No. I think you people just are following the wrong people, which is why your updates are negative. But my updates are actually positive.
About me, that's it.
So you might need to check your following. You might need to check your
Soon
following.
you want to take him hubs kumunyo pesa.
No, me actually, if I could actually, you know, take him and get
Yeah, we
well.
are praying for
visit,
him.
I mean,
Yes.
or
Yes.
a gift,
But I did
a
see
card.
a provision around the State House where you can actually come and send in, sign your quick
And did you see those
message,
messages? People are
flowers.
actually writing
Yes.
good messages there.
Yes.
Get well soon,
Yeah, get well,
Jaja.
Jaja.
Yeah, it's my same sentiment too. I pray
We
it
pray
gets
for
better.
you.
Felix, good morning.
24/7.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you, Philo?
I'm lovely.
It's so good to see you.
Oh, so good
It's
to-
so
always
good to
be
see
back.
you. And you look awesome in that blazer.
Well, thank you.
I'll stick to that than going to the hubs and rock. And something that did happen yesterday, I don't know any of you, if there's something you missed, was the Boys to Men.
Oh, yeah.
Lord Jesus.
Give it to
I'm
Felix to
told the
go
bosses
for
are going
boys
to be reporting to work late today.
Lord Jesus.
Miaka jamwe.
Well, it is what, but some of you also had your share on Friday. You who was at Freedom City.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there, but I'm just saying.
No, okay, emyaka gyamwe gyaliko Freedom City. Fe emyaka gyaffe gyadde gyajjo. Yesterday was
I'm
for
not
us.
the audience there. I
Hey.
mean, there's only one song I know, Boys to Men, and the rest of it
One
is just
song?
so sorted.
And it's okay,
You're
by
such
the
a
way.
bad liar, Mollen.
No, I'm not.
There's
I'm
no
just
way.
saying, yeah, there are very many songs, but it's one song that I like.
Which song
so
is that?
I'm just going to be honest and say I'm not the audience.
Jesus.
Yeah.
No, we cannot allow Felix to
If there
shame
were
anyone
Backstreet
into
Boys,
that.
if there were Backstreet Boys, you will get me there.
Backstreet Boys and
A
Boys
huge
to Men.
difference, my dear. A huge difference.
I can't believe this woman.
Almost rose at the same time.
They are of the
Shined at
So
the
Felix,
same
these are
time.
my opinion.
Boys to Men, Westlife.
Just
How was
know-
it?
There's this song called Girl in the Magazine. I don't know if you know that song. Girl in the Life magazine. You know, I know Philomena.
You can imagine.
But of course, a
Felix.
couple
No
of
one
numbers.
knows.
But you would look at the crowds, and the crowds were just so like taken away. The performances were on point. The sound was good. The setup was on point. Like everything about that. The emceeing was good. Kenyena did us some good justice. I like what I was doing. Sauti Solo, Kenyena nailed it as well.
Yes.
Kenneth was there. Mugabe did justice to the show as well. Then before you knew, boom.
Boys to Men.
Those were boys, men to
We should-
judges.
they
I
are
don't
now
know,
men
but
to-
judges. But honestly, the energy they had, their voices.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that we need to learn about these international performances. But I think it was a good one. For me, it was the closure of the weekend, and it was something that actually, if you ever, I wish I knew. For men who had issues with their wives, that was the best. Just know it left home. Everything is sorted now.
Oh wow, that
Once
was
we are
like the
sorted.
one platform and one opportunity they had to come together and sort their indifference.
Trust me, every husband who took the wife
Hey.
to Boys to Men.
It's now a new kind of setting.
Now it is you who's in the.
that
How's
you,
it? You go Abanja, like you're the one who's. Everything has
They
been
owe
sorted
you
for
at
some
this
time.
point,
Absolutely.
yes.
So you're
There's-
forgetting. You're
for a few
forgetting,
months,
you're
there's
you're
been
not
some.
being fair to the Mollen generation.
But they had their palace
Who
one.
also had their
on Friday.
confusion over the weekend, you know.
The two shows both sold out, so.
yeah. I mean, everyone, I really want to believe that every artist here in Uganda has their own audience and that they appeal to. And I think there was, again, a clear definition of what we saw on Friday. I mean, divisions here and there, of course, aside from the banter,
But it was a
yeah.
wrong thing.
I mean,
All
it
that
was wrong.
said, just like I
because that
think
is the one thing we're trying to
According
fight
to
in
who?
the music industry. But one thing, though, I took away from all of this is that every artist here in Uganda, they have their own audiences they appeal to. And you know what? I don't think I am in the best position to judge anybody, right? So we did see people go to Freedom City. We did see people go to
Lugogo.
yes, Lugogo.
Okay,
So
Lugogo.
at the end of the day, it was a win-win. It was a win-win for everyone. I know there are very many people who would totally want to sit down.
Give
and
a
have
deep
an
analysis.
yeah, but
And
we're not
say
going
it
to get
wasn't
into
a
all of that.
win-win.
We're not going to get into all of that. Well, it's Good Morning Uganda, and we're still looking at what is happening right now. But there is one story again that took me off before we get into the briefs. I did see the Albino Society here in Uganda coming out to show their very, very unhappy faces, and they had quite a lot to say when it comes to the charges that are being put onto their lotions or medications, especially coming in from UNBS. Now, we should remember that government decided to come and scrape off taxes of these lotions when they are getting into the country. Yes, the sunscreens. Yeah. But now, UNBS is charging what they call testing fees. And this, according to the representative from their union, saying that this is very unfair because there are very many people who can't afford this. And when we are looking at the price ranges of these fees, they range from 20,000 to 400,000 Ugandan shillings. Now we are wondering if government decided to scrape off these taxes, but UNBS is still coming through to charge the test, to give them the testing fees. Does that show that there is uncoordinated information, or do we have government ministries and agencies and authorities not being in sync with each other? Because at the end of the day, the albinos are the ones that are suffering.
But I think these are two different institutions doing two different things. And one, for every product that comes into this country, because the sunscreens, this is the cream they apply.
Yes.
Majority of it is imported in this country. So NBS tests and finds out if it's befitting, if it's fit, because even fake ones can come. Those that are a danger to them can come. So there are a number of products that government scrapped tax. However, NBS's mandate is to ensure if they are fit for consumption. So they charge that testing. So if government scraps off tax, it doesn't mean, because this is not a tax, it's a testing fee to ensure that what they are going to consume is safe for the market. So relating it to government removing tax, I think it should be now an appeal to government to direct NBS to UNBS to Uganda Bureau of Standards to test these creams freely. Otherwise, if it's seen as an additional tax, then it is not.
Well, the major complaint here is the affordability. They feel like that is quite a lot. But also when you listen to
it's not just I think the albino community to even complain about this, because we all use sunscreen, for example, and we know that the prices are already high. So the moment that there are these other charges that are coming in from individual organizations, that surcharge is going to be put on the product. So that means that everyone else who is going to be purchasing sunscreen, the prices could go up, and they're already high. It's hard to get even a good product below 100,000 in this country. So that means that you're going to have more of these products coming in, but very expensive, and people won't be able to afford it. And for a country that is constantly dealing with dry and sunny weather, we need some of these products to be
Maybe briefly,
so we hope they harmonize this.
A quick one. I would suggest to government, when we talk about sunscreens, that they should be put on the list of essential medicines to be given free of charge to albino, people with albinism. Reason being, Mollen may not be affected, or I or you, as these people are affected, because Mollen, you have melanin in your skin. So when the sun hits you,
but that's small melanin.
Yeah, but compared to the people we are talking about, you're not anywhere there. For them,
you can't compare your melanin, Robert, to
for them, we are talking about a certain group that is vulnerable. So for them, it is a must-have. So this should be put on essential medicines that these people can go to government facilities.
But why is
and
that
get
so
it
hard
free
for
of
government
charge.
to look
and
into?
get it free of charge? Because
it's
the
direct.
cheapest is 40,000 actually. I was doing a survey, I hosted them last week, and the cheapest is 40,000, and you can only apply that thing of 40,000 for about a week.
But they're not
And
made
it's
in
finished.
Uganda, so
Yes.
we can't ask them
So-
to be free.
Yeah, and we
They're
also
not
understand that
made
the,
in
Are condoms
that the
made in
union,
Uganda?
Yes, they are. Where
Also
the
very
livestock
important to
manufacture them.
note is that we know that the union does the sourcing for these sunscreens. They actually go look for the donors, they look for all of these things until these sunscreens are gotten into the country. So they feel like that is a responsibility that should have been done by government. So government can only do so much by scraping off the taxes.
But
so
also,
there is a whole apportioning of responsibility in all of
Phil, I
this.
think the biggest problem is that it's a shared good.
Yes.
It's a shared good. It's not unique that, for example, when you say ARVs will only be taken by people with HIV or any particular medicine, it's a shared product that sometimes its consumption cannot be limited to the people.
Yes.
That's why I think the challenge is that in as much as you would want to subsidize the prices and what, it's medicinal for them, yet
Yeah.
it's an accessory for other people.
Yes.
That's the hard part, in my opinion, where to draw the line and say that
Well,
it's a bit a hard one, but government still must come in. I think the best is what Philo said, that you must get a couple of partnerships to see how
Yes.
to make this available.
because this is not something that can be done 100%.
But it's an essential for
by-
them.
Yeah.
We must
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
Well, at the end of the day, we want a healthy population, and we want everyone in their own respective category to feel cared for by government. So we are yet to see where this is going to end. Well, for now, we'll look into our story briefs locally and internationally.
And we'll begin with an update on His Excellency's health after testing positive of COVID-19. He tweeted, President Museveni in another tweet, that is this weekend, updated the country about his health condition, saying that he is not bedridden but busy with paperwork. In a tweet, President also said Janet Kataha Museveni tested negative for COVID-19 and therefore not affected. Ugandans, especially the Bazukulu, greetings. Therefore, of my corona status has seen me assault all day long 3 offload of government papers. I said at 6:30 a.m. The coronavirus, by domesticating me, helped me to catch up with my paperwork. The symptoms are mild than yesterday in the night, slightly having some bit of cough. And he also said that he will be fine and encouraged the Bazukuru, of course, to stay strong, and said he will defeat COVID-19.
Well, the Vice President of Uganda, Major Jessica Alupo, was this week in Lusaka, Zambia, to represent President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni at the 22nd Common Markets for East African and South African Summit. On arrival at the airport, Vice President Alupo was welcomed by Zambia's Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development, alias Mubanga, Uganda's Deputy Head of Mission, Zimbabwe, that is in Zambia, Ambassador Major General Geoffrey Baraba, and other government officials.
Moving on, Coffee Farmers Association in Rwenzori, Rukunjiri, Kanungu and Kisoro region have received a $10 million donation from government to improve coffee growing in the areas. This was stated by the Finance Minister Matia Kasaija during a visit to coffee plantations in Ntungamo. Uganda coffee is priced cheaply because of its poor quality in harvesting, storage and handling, with many Ugandans not aware of proper mechanisms which affect its performance and competition in the international market. At his field visit at different coffee processing plants in Ntungamo, Finance Minister Matia Kasaija said this will soon be averted due to improved mechanization and sensitization in the areas.
Now, the first Deputy Prime Minister and East African Affairs, that is Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga, did reiterate government's commitment to invest in education with emphasis on traditional schools. Now, Kadaga was at Kira College Butiki at the institution's 34th homecoming. All girls and Bwera Nyanji have also committed to ensure that school maintains, it ranks up there among the nation's best.
Well, away from that and looking at some of the international stories, starting off with at least 10 people who died and 25 others in hospital after a wedding bus crashed in an Australian wine region. The passengers were returning from a wedding at a winery on Sunday night when their coach overturned on Wine County Drive near Greta in Hunter Valley, New South Wales. Police say they are investigating the circumstances surrounding the crash. The driver of the bus, a 58-year-old man, has been arrested, according to the NSW Police Acting Assistant Commissioner Tracy Chapman, talking to the guests who were traveling to Singleton, presumably for their accommodation. Now, the crash occurred around 23:30 local time. Now, 4 Colombian indigenous children who were discovered 40 days after their plane crashed in the Amazon jungle survived eating seeds, roots and plants they knew were edible thanks to their upbringing, according to indigenous people. The survival of the children is a sign of the knowledge and relationship with the natural environment that is taught starting in the mother's womb, according to the National Organization of Indigenous People of Colombia. The local knowledge of indigenous adults who were involved in the search alongside Colombian troops also played a part in the children being found alive. The 4 siblings, aged 13, 9 and 4, as well as a now 12-month-old baby, survived a small plane crash on May 1st that took the lives of the pilot, their mother and the 3rd adult. The children's family clung to the hope that the siblings' familiarity with the jungle would see them through.
Now, in another story, Romania's ambassador to Kenya, who allegedly compared a monkey with Africans during a meeting in the capital, has been recalled, according to the Romanian Foreign Ministry. Dragos Viorela Tigau was at the United Nations building in Nairobi on April 26th when a monkey appeared at the window of the conference room. The African group has joined us, Tigau said, according to a note from the South Sudanese embassy in Kenya, seen by AFP news agency. The African group would like to condemn in the strongest terms possible the insulting, racist and degrading utterances, wrote Chol Ngonjo, the South Sudanese ambassador to Kenya, who leads the African diplomats in Nairobi. The Romanian Foreign Ministry said on Saturday that it had only been informed of the incident this week, after which it began a procedure to recall its ambassador. Now, in climate news, when Jennifer Austin woke up on Tuesday morning, her Ottawa home smelled like smoke, even though all the windows were closed. I felt like a little bit under siege, she said. It was a bit of a battle every time the front door was opening, so I put one of the air filters there. Outside, it was like an orange glow and the streets looked smoky. Worried about her own asthma and health risks that her 3 teenage kids might face, Austin ran multiple air purifiers inside and tried to keep the amount of time spent outside to a minimum. There was the immediate feeling of needing to take action to try to protect myself and my family's health, she said. But there is also long-term concern of the fact that this is real and it is happening, and that this is not going to be the last time, and just the mental exhaustion that it creates.
Well, looking at more stories, of course, coming in from our dailies, the New Vision and the Daily Monitor. The big story in the New Vision this Monday morning, AU to pay 10 billion shillings for dead UPDF soldiers. Now, we know that this story has also been making quite a number of headlines in the last weeks. Now, victims' families to receive money after verification. Another story you could look forward to in the New Vision this morning. MP Nsereko attacks Catholic Church, of course, in regards to Katod Wama. And still in more stories this morning, soldiers, a police officer arrested over lawyer Mukisa's murder. And again, looking at new law bans landlords from public markets. Now, what law are we talking about and in what context? All of that you can find in the New Vision. And coming to health, how to reduce risk of prostate cancer. Again, another commonly talked about subject. And finally, looking at the lifestyle section, alien skinned Palazzo, giving you a review about the two different shows. This, I'm pretty sure, we would all be interested to find out what exactly happened, those that were not there.
We're the one to help us catch.
Mollen was there in spirit.
Was she? You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked.
But Felix, I don't know.
Oh,
I'm not complaining
yeah,
about
I'm
your
sorry
boys to men. I mean, you enjoyed your boys to men, fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
But I doubt one thing I'm sure of, if Mollen was to go, if she,
I didn't
don't
go, so
think,
let's not compare.
I don't
let's
think
not go there.
should be at Freedom City.
She must have been at Lugogo.
She must have been at Lugogo, because what I saw there, I was just driving through, going to some place on Entebbe Road. But I must tell you, you people,
Very chaotic, very, very
Actually, all this was
Maybe
supposed,
Kirabo
all this
was
was
there.
aimed to Chira, but I just wanted him to come out and say it himself, which he just did.
We will look
Like
at the
we've been
big stories of the Daily Morning.
was just not
you can't believe.
Driving where?
that
place was so.
Felix, what's happening
every
with the
weekend I
Daily
must go
Monitor?
somewhere.
The Daily
Gentleman
Monitor-
will tell us during the break what exactly
Absolutely.
went down.
Still in the big headlines, now Army holds police boss over murder in the city. Same story about that law clerk. And then man wanted for whipping wife in dark row. Domestic violence, something we shouldn't even be laughing about. This is a scourge, a terrible thing we have to fight together as a country. When you look at the picture in the Daily Monitor, it's very unsightly. You see a man holding a whip, a lady. This is not the country we want to live in for our daughters and sisters. It's not safe if we still have men looming around with authority of being violent. Now, doctors, government meetings fail to end strike, and Palazzo finally gets it right, but alien skin snatches the shine. Now, list of prisoners, prisons transfers and promotions there. Of course, also cerebral paralysis always manifests after after birth, I beg your pardon. Something also very important for us to interest ourselves in, and these are some of the silent dangers we struggle with.
And silent killers
Yes,
as well,
in our
yes.
communities. But some of the results or the causes of these are when we don't go for antenatals. If we don't encourage pregnant women to go for medical attention when they are pregnant, and actually also using proper facilities for giving birth. Many mothers and children have gotten very funny complications because of that.
Because I was again looking at a story about how fistula is really taking quite a toll, and one of the biggest reasons that was given as accountability is a poor facilitation for these mothers, and also looking at the negligence of most of the health workers. So again, some of the reasons that are mutually, shared by the same issues. Yes, so there is still a lot that we have to do when it comes to the health sector of Uganda and very many other sectors anyway. It's Good Morning Uganda today, Monday, 12th of June 2023. We'll go for a break. When we return, we still have lots of conversations that we are bound to have with you coming up in the newsreel. And right after that, we'll be having again more updates, what's happening on our roads this Monday morning, and also from weather and climate, what has Mollen got for us in store. Much later on, we'll be having the GNU agenda, not forgetting sports updates from Ruben Mpima Chivirango. Good morning. We'll return shortly after this.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Electric Boys.
A huge difference, my dear. A huge difference.
I can't believe this woman.
Almost rose at the same time.
They are of the
Shined at
So
the same
Felix,
These are
time.
my opinion.
Boys to Men, Westlife.
Just
How was
know
it?
There's this song called Girl in the Magazine. I don't know if you know that song. Girl in the Life magazine. You know, I know Philomena.
You can imagine.
But of course,
Felix,
a couple
no
of
one
numbers.
knows.
But you would look at the crowds, and the crowds were just so like taken away. The performances were on point. The sound was good. The setup was on point. Like everything about that. The emceeing was good. Kenyena did us some good justice. I like what I was doing. Sauti Solo, Kenyena nailed it as well.
Yes.
Kenneth was there. Mugabe did justice to the show as well. Then before you knew, boom.
Boys to Men.
Those were boys, men to
We should-
judges.
they are
I don't
now
know,
men
but
to-
judges. But honestly, the energy they had, their voices.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that we need to learn about these international performances. But I think it was a good one. For me, it was the closure of the weekend, and it was something that actually, if you ever, I wish I knew. For men who had issues with their wives, that was the best. Just know it left home, everything is sorted now.
Oh wow, that was
we are
like the
sorted.
one platform and one opportunity they had to come together and sort their indifference.
Trust me, every husband who took the wife
Hey.
to Boys to Men.
It's now a new kind of setting.
Now it is you who's in the.
that
You go about like you're the one who's. Everything has
They
been
owe
sorted
you
for
at
some
this
time,
point,
absolutely.
yes.
So you're
There's-
forgetting.
for a few months, there's been
not
some.
being fair to the Mollen generation.
But they had their palace one.
Who also had
skin
their
on Friday.
confusion over the weekend,
The two shows both sold out, so.
Yeah, I mean, everyone. I really want to believe that every artist here in Uganda has their own audience and that they appeal to. And I think there was again a clear definition of what we saw on Friday. I mean, divisions here and there, of course, aside from the banter.
But it
people-
was a
yeah.
wrong thing.
I mean,
All
it was
that said,
wrong.
just like I
because that
think-
is the one thing we're trying to
According
fight
to
in
who?
the music industry. But one thing though I took away from all of this is that every artist here in Uganda, they have their own audiences they appeal to. And you know what? I don't think I am in the best position to judge anybody, right? So we did see people go to Freedom City. We did see people go to
Lugogo.
yes, Lugogo. So at the end of the day, it was a win-win. It was a win-win for everyone. I know there are very many people who would totally want to sit down
Give
and
a
have an
deep
analysis.
analysis.
Yeah, but
And
we're not
say
going
it
to get
wasn't
into
a
all of that.
win-win.
We're not going to get into all of that. Well, it's Good Morning Uganda, and we're still looking at what is happening right now. But there is one story again that took me off before we get into the briefs. I did see the Albino Society here in Uganda coming out to show their very, very unhappy faces, and they had quite a lot to say when it comes to the charges that are being put onto their lotions or medications, especially coming in from UNBS. Now, we should remember that government decided to come and scrape off taxes of these lotions when they're getting
The
into the country.
sunscreens.
Yes, the sunscreens. But now, UNBS is charging what they call testing fees. And this, according to the representative from their union, saying that this is very unfair because there are very many people who can't afford this. And when we are looking at the price ranges of these fees, they range from 20,000 to 400,000 Ugandan shillings. Now we are wondering if government decided to scrape off these taxes, but UNBS is still coming through to charge the test, to give them the testing fees. Does that show that there is uncoordinated information, or do we have government ministries and agencies and authorities not being in sync with each other? Because at the end of the day, the albinos are the ones that are suffering.
But I think these are two different institutions doing two different things. And one, for every product that comes into this country, because the sunscreens, this is the cream they apply.
Yes.
Majority of it is imported in this country. So NBS tests and finds out if it's befitting, if it's fit, because even fake ones can come. Those that are a danger to them can come. So there are a number of products that government scrapped tax. However, NBS's mandate is to ensure if they are fit for consumption. So they charge that testing. So if government scraps off tax, it doesn't mean, because this is not a tax, it's a
Oh, Sebatia, it is real.
deal. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Joko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. It is the 12th day of the month of June. The year is 2023. My name is Philomena Mastiko. With the gentlemen this morning, Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, and Felix Nkunda. And of course, looking at the agenda today, like I did say a couple minutes back, it's a very special Monday, not any ordinary day. And being special because it is the International Day Against Child Labor. This is not something we're celebrating only here in the country, but we are looking at it, giving it a 360 degrees coverage all around the world. Now, when we look at child labor, we know that this is a song that we have been singing from way back, only that it was brought straight to our eyes back in 2002 after the day was officially put onto the international calendar. Now, child labor definitely has a lot, if not only harm, causing it to the children, ridding of them their innocence, taking away their childhood, forcing them into this labor that is not good for them mentally and socially, plus physically. But also, it's very important to understand that if governments or different governments of different countries came in with united efforts to fight this, it would be possible, but it would also be very necessary to understand the root cause of all this child labor. Again, not only in Uganda, we're looking at it from the East African perspective, from the African perspective, but also countrywide. And also very important for us to discuss if social justice and child labor are interlinked in one way or another, and what we mean by those two different aspects. We'll be getting into all of that, and I do encourage you to get into our social media pages, be part of the discussion. How best can we get rid of child labor here in Uganda? What can we do? Who has to do what? What role is expected to be played by what party to ensure that children are free from forced labor here in Uganda? Well, I'll take the discussion to you, Robert. And like I did say at the start, I do believe that if we want to fight the problem, I think it's very imperative for us to understand the root cause. And in your opinion, why do you think we are still looking at growing numbers of child labor all the way from 2002? The growth is very exponential in the cases we've seen. Police has come out to give us reports, and I will tell you that the cases are really alarming. But why do you think there is still space for this vice to grow?
Well, there isn't a single reason I can say that this is why child labor is increasing, but I must say there are a number of factors, or a combination of factors. One, poverty. That you find a number of children engaged in child labor come from still struggling families.
Yes.
Those are children you're going to find in quarries, stone quarries,
Yes.
because they have to add something to their school fees, because they have to add something on table for what to eat, even contribute to rent. So poverty remains a challenge there. You see them moving around with maize, not even in just one locality, but moving long distances. A child almost at midnight moving and saying, I can't go back home when I've not finished this maize. So I must sell this maize, come what, come where. So there's a bit of poverty. And if you're to look at the demographic distribution of child labor, you'll find that in extremely poor areas, child labor is so much compared to some parts of this country. And then also ignorance. There are some parents or communities that don't see child labor as a problem. For them, children working in a quarry, he will tell you, I started working in that quarry when I was 4. By 14 years, I could have a full, maybe sino truck to sell. And that's how I was able to marry your mother. That's how I was able to build this slightly shelter we have. So to him, he did it. It was normal. So what is wrong for a child to come from school and go to a quarry? What is wrong for a child to come from school, get on a canoe, go and fish in the deep ends of Lake Victoria? Because they grew up seeing it. What's wrong for a child to move with maize and all that, miles and miles for them? They did that. So it's very okay for them. They don't see any problem, and they don't see it as a problem. So poverty, ignorance, but also we must accept there are still also many children in child labor as we speak today, forcefully, where some were trafficked. And in this very country, Uganda, there is one area whenever we talk about child labor that we forget to look at.
Yes.
That is sexual exploitation of children. A number of breath holes, there was a research that was done, I think, by the Ministry of Ethics and Integrity about 6 years back. Because I remember, I think it was still Father Lukodo or something that I was getting this report at the office there. And it showed that we have breath holes, I think that is the right pronunciation, in Uganda, where people go to these villages and tell these mothers, fathers, we are taking your child to work as a housemaid, which is another form of child labor, by the way, as a housemaid. When they bring these young girls, they take them to structures where each is given a room. And maybe it's a bus structure like something. And the men come and use these girls. So that is another area that sometimes these reports don't capture. Actually, it is one of the most increasing ones of late. You go to any city, they will tell you, it was what, and these are the young girls in here. So some are doing this because either it is child trafficking, it is forced, they have no choice. And even their parents back home don't know. Now when this child comes back after being into this life, that because she's given to dress well, she'll come back with good phone, then she'll tell different stories. I work in a restaurant. So she was initiated into something, and then she'll mature into another level of a lady of the night plus. So that is also another form. But away from poverty, away from ignorance, away from those that are forced and trafficked into that, we also have another form of child labor. Why we are seeing it increasing today also has an attachment to a number of cultural beliefs that children must do certain things. Because you find someone who to these extremes. So those still remain a challenge. But above all, the biggest challenge where you have child labor being poverty. It is very hard that you're going to find the levels of child labor in Kororo as the same in Katanga. where every child, the moment she wakes up, or he has to look for where to get. You know what they call kawenjas? These scrap young kids, have you seen them?
Yeah,
Who
roaming
go,
around,
moving
looking for-
around,
yes.
and plastics, what? You know, that is survival. And if you look at which age, because child labor is not only hard labor, but also it covers dangerous. You're exposing a child to not only hard labor that needs strength, but also she's working in a situation where his whole life is in danger. You can say, no, this is a factory. This child is just playing with machines here. But because this is a child, that day, chemicals, what? So if the work this child is doing is exposing them, because one would say what is wrong for a child to move around picking bottles.
Yes.
But the time sometimes they go, homes they go to, it renders their life in a dangerous status, or anything that, even what they pick, sometimes dangerous chemicals, sometimes for them they want to be selective, they want money.
Yes.
Sometimes bottles, chemicals may pour on them.
There is no precaution that is actually
no precaution
taken.
because
yes.
these are children. For them, they don't know. Bamutumye buchupa, anonya buchupa. And they'll walk anywhere. They'll go to Felix's gate, enter, then Felix to the ball of my kid was taken. Then he continues and all that.
Well, it's also very evident that a day like this obviously is calling for reinvigorated efforts, and especially on the international level, looking at different countries coming in to actually fight for this. But also, it's very important, like I did say at the start, there's been quite a lot of conversation when it comes to social justice and child labor. Felix, do you think that these are two aspects that are in any way related to each other? And if yes, how?
Very much. There's a lot that puts them in one squeezed position, actually, if not intertwined for that matter. Taking into knowledge and consideration that the definition of a child gives the entire gist of reason why they need to be protected, why even we're having this discussion, and later on why a day like this is cut out, to appreciate why should we be protecting these people, this group, this age, why? It's all hidden in that. Now, what Robert is explaining is basically what the danger that is posed with. But the reason why what he's saying is a problem is because of the fact that we are looking at someone who has not developed to the point of such or assisting themselves to that extent. The United Nations Charter on Child Protection Rights. We have the Convention on Humanitarian Convention on Protection of Children Rights in wars and torn war areas and what. We have the domestication of those particular laws that manifests in various acts, the Children's Act. You talk about the Marriage and Divorce Act, talk about the Succession Act, you talk about the chapter 4 of the Constitution that gives enormous rights around children appreciation, talk about education, health, freedom, expression, just to mention but a few. All these ones point to the strength that comes with a given need for children to be protected. Now, exposing them to the threats that include but not limited to, 1, work. You can imagine, like, it's so painful, and this is something that we may not look at as labor, but imagine the children will wake up at 4 a.m. You're waking up a 4-year-old.
Yes. Every single day, Monday.
Yes. That's an equivalent of abuse of children. You get the point. These are the things that the law talks about. You wake a child up at 4. Literally, this person is going to be dozing throughout the whole day. And then blah and all that. Now, imagine waking up a child at that time to go and work. to go and do hard work. Because as early as that, you find kids already on the streets who are selling things to
Yes.
other kids who are going to school.
Oh, yes.
This is the reason why days like this are cut out, for us to reinforce this message, to put it out there once again to the world to understand that the word children, child, means that this person is still forming, the body is still forming in terms of, and it all starts with the brain, with the body, with the physique, mental and body. They are still under development. The bodies are good for learning, but not for execution. When you look at, and I want us to just draw just take a world picture in what happens in our countries. If an adult can walk a distance of let's say 10 meters, or let's say 100 meters in 1 hour, but then the expectation when these kids are put into labor is that they're supposed to walk the same distances or even much better distances.
Yes.
If you've been to these stone quarries, if you've been to these sites where they get sand from, I see most of the kids now last time I was telling Robert here, I think it was Thursday when we were talking, I told you, if you want to be shocked, go to garages today.
Yes.
All garages in Kampala now have kids. Food vendors, I don't know if that's the right word. You see them crossing roads, carrying bucket of food,
Yes.
taking from
one office to another. Yes.
These are kids. Actually, child labor is before our eyes most recent than ever. But who is negotiating for their pay? Because whoever is working should be paid.
Should be paid.
Now,
Away with the fact that
it's already wrong.
It's already wrong
But
that the
who's
labor is
negotiating
yes.
what they are earning?
And you know why they are there? Because they offer cheap labor.
That's the thing. And this is
It's
where
cheaper.
I have time and again on this show said, who represents children in parliament? Everyone is represented, but we have who represents. Should we assume everyone there is a parent?
And also
They are
not,
We have a
represented?
parliamentary
not even
forum.
passive representation
We
meanwhile.
have a forum in Parliament that looks at children, that represents parliamentary forum.
Why,
on
why
children.
did the elderly have a forum? Why did they have also? Why did they push to have? Why didn't they have a forum?
That
It's
makes it
about
hard.
forums. Why did the employees get a forum?
But one, to be
The questions of children in this country must be largely looked at as a strong issue that needs answers. And this is all before our eyes. All of you go to garages. Okay, if you don't go, you may not have a car.
Even go to the markets.
Go to the
the
markets.
markets, yes.
go to landing sites,
Yes.
go to quarries,
Construction sites.
go to
where you see
construction
young children,
sites.
yes.
It's
I'm telling you the
everywhere.
most common thing. I know all of you who ride or who have driven taxis. You've seen kids sell sponge, local
sponges,
yeah,
yes.
sponges. I think around all the corners, kasori, maize. You see them selling books. Now, for them, they are selling pens and books, yet they don't even attend school. You've seen them. Your baby, some of them are selling all these assorted items on the roads. Now, KCC arrests them. I've seen these gruesome pictures before my eyes. When you see KCC chasing them, one of them was knocked. Many of them are knocked anyway by cars all over Kampala. Why? Because they are exposed to child labor. Now, when you take the stretch of Rubaga, Mengo, Wankuluku, Kumutundwe, when you go, I think the side of Rusazi, now you find them doing another commercial activity called sugarcane selling. Someone is hardly 10 years pushing a, don't know if it's a wheelbarrow, wooden wheelbarrow, and they are selling sugarcane. Then KCC arrests them. They take, where? Is it enough that all we do is enforcement? He talked about the kids who pick scrap. There's a number of kids who have died. You remember the instance of the bomb that went off somewhere in Kisenyi? 3 kids. And so many stories we never hear of. The quarries that are killing these kids. Mwana yafudde ki? Chirombe chaba butikidde. All these are the reasons days like this are picked out for us to have a true discussion about the safety of our children. It's long time ago. This is in this new generation, the 21st of the same. We cannot be having children not being attended to as children. Robert talked about the issue of marriages, sexual workers. I can tell you in Kampala today, out of 10 sexual workers you'll meet, at least you'll have 3 below the age of 15.
Very true.
Go to Machindye, go to the Kabusus of this world, go to Natete, you know. The places are known, I won't mention particular areas, but go to Bwaise, go to Kawembe. 13, 14, 15 sexual workers. What are we doing about it? Actually, it is sad that days like this are not celebrated largely as a country because they cause more awareness.
And you know, when you say that again, because I love the fact that Robert here highlighted that we have that parliamentary forum. It's very important and really again necessary for us to have strong best evidence to show that we are actually fighting against something like this. We need to have directed innovation and creativeness when it comes to policy creation, when it comes to making laws that ensure that we protect the children. But when you look at Uganda in perspective again, and specifically here in the country, have we actually done quite a lot to ensure that we have availed all this? The representatives we have at different levels, local level, parliamentary level, executive level, have we availed enough support, resources in terms of policy, in terms of any other thing, you know, to protect the children? Or do we actually still lack when it comes to that very, very specific bracket?
Well, I must say one funny thing about Uganda is in terms of policies, paperwork, institutions, we do great, but where do we fail? We fail in monitoring and supervision, we fail in implementation, but also fail in treating the root cause of the problem. That is where we fail.
Do we know the root cause though?
We do, but you see, I never wanted to say this, but I'm tempted to say it.
You may as well say it.
No, what I'm going to say, I never wanted to bring it out. But on such a day, let's call a spoon, and a spade. One. You people, we must agree that the gap between the poor and the rich, the more it widens, it is dangerous. Why? The rich sometimes don't know and understand. That is why earlier on I tactfully told you that if you're to look at instances of child labor in Kororo, Muyenga, these devout places, you may find none. When you go down where majority stay, you find it's the order of 30. And the more we keep on neglecting these children, people who are empowered, who push decisions, who should implement, and you no longer look at a child as a community responsibility, but you're like, my children are safe. I'm just going to give a small example for those that think and analyze. Allow me to divert a little bit. Friday, we had 2 concerts. One person identified himself with a cluster that has been neglected. I want to tell you what I saw this man move through Chisek. The energy, the number, the zeal that I saw at Freedom City was speaking something. We need to associate. And day by day, if we don't see how does that group wake up seeing a future and a destiny, we are going to be doomed. So, the problem why I said we have laws. Our government enacted very good laws regarding child labor. We have institutions in this country, if you're to move around. You have a Minister of Gender, Labor. Then you have a minister, a whole state minister that looks at the elderly and the children. When you go to police, you find a desk Child Protection, Child and Family Protection Unit. When you go to local council, right from LC1 on the executive, there must be someone in charge of children. When you go, so policies, institutions we have. But where do we fail? We fail at implementation. We fail at enforcement. Why? Because your child has gone to a school I want to mention. You've dropped her. Felix's child has been dropped to a school I want to mention. My child has been collected by a van. And we are comfortable when they reach the Uganda, they're in Spain, where? So, we do not prioritize this because us that pull shots, we feel we are not affected at all. Because if you have the legal instruments in power, you have the institutions to enforce this, then why don't you? Then the other problem also being, Philo, that even if you're to enforce these laws, but there is a problem the other hand that brings this. For example, I don't know, but I want all of us to agree that in Uganda, any child above 4 should be in school. Not so?
Yes.
Should be in school. And education is a right. So why aren't these children in school and engaging in these other activities? One, you introduce universal primary education. What education is it giving? What are the necessities for you to have a child in a UPE school? Today, on a simple scale, UPE schools, majority of them charge 60,000. Now, African men are blessed. You find a father with 14. And these people, many of them maybe, so 60 times 14 for every 3 months. Then parking for them and all that. The education system, has it been a solution to child labor? I leave that question to many people. That UPE, has it been a solution that you tell a parent, "Omwana tagenda kuvuba, agenda asome." When a child will come back and say, "Feredu soba." You see? So, second, how have we addressed the issue of poverty among these parents? Because I want to tell you, no parent will be empowered and will allow their children to participate in child labor. Can you? You can't. Felix can't. So when they're financially unstable, because some of these will tell you, you find a family, some of them, they are vulnerable, disabled. God bless them with a son. He's the only one who has to go and work in a quarry, work in a fishing. So you need to address poverty. You need to have quality education, that even the poor amongst the poor will see reason to take their children to school, because they will see that this child is going to grow up in school, get a job because they are qualified. But when you find the poor amongst the poor thinking that, even if he goes to school, where is this child going to get a job? I come from this place. Nobody knows me. This. So many reasons. Let them learn fishing. Let them go to quarry.
Well, we're looking at the International Day Against Child Labor, which is celebrated every 12th of June, every single year, and internationally. Looking at the progress we have made as a country, have we done any progress? Is there substantial evidence to show for it? Have we done enough when it comes to social justice, and especially in the context of children? Be part of the conversation. Continue letting us know. Get into our social media pages. Twitter, the hashtag is UBCGMU. 0709602592 is the number to also send your messages to. But also, Felix, when we look at child labor, there are again other things we'd love to know and how they are related. When you look at child labor, when you look at productivity of the labor force of a country, when you look at job creation, I want to believe in one way or another they are connected. But also basing on a survey that was done by UBOS, that is the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, a national housing survey, it clearly showed that over 2 million children in Uganda. We're looking at this is an average number we're looking at. Over 2 million Ugandan children are in one way or another involved in child labor. Now, when we look at statistics like this, do you think these are going to affect the future productivity of a workforce like Uganda's? And we know that Uganda's workforce right now is more dominated by young people. In one way or another, is there a short-term effect that we're looking at?
And actually,
or long term, anyway,
it's both.
In this case, yes.
It's short and long term. In Uganda, we have a saying in Chaso Seji. Robert can help us. Yesu yachi muula. Aseji Yesu ya muula. We can't get the best out of these kids at that level. That's the honest truth. The reason why we work and strive tirelessly, and just like our parents did, I don't want to credit us, but just like our parents did, I'm imagining Robert, if he was put in a quarry somewhere crushing stones, we wouldn't have had this opportunity to have a conversation, a meaningful conversation with a man like him. I'm imagining if Philomena was married off at 13.
I'm told these days they marry off girls as young as 9
They are
years.
sold. That's
Yes.
not even married. They are sold. The reality, the truth is that they are being sold. This conversation could have been probably done by somebody else. This is what we are denying our children. The opportunity to see their dreams come to life. That's the reality of a day like this. To remind parents out there, to remind custodians of kids, to remind guardians and foster parents of families out there. You're denying the full opportunity to this child. Let us be honest about the realities. The reason why someone is called a parent, parenting, to parent, is to nurture. Let's not get it twisted. Parenting has never been something easy. On a day like this, we want to re-echo that again and again and again. Robert, this thing of saying poverty is there has never been a generation without poverty. The stories you get from countries like the US will make you cry, and think even Ugandans, I think, were much better. The children who grow around gun violence, you've seen all these stories. Most of the American rappers, the NBA players, they tell you their stories. But the only thing they attribute their success to is parenting. We can never promise you a world without hardships. We can't make that promise because we can't equally guarantee the same. We can't tell you every family is supposed to be rich in this country. We can't tell you every family is supposed to take you to the best school. I don't know, probably, I've not had Philo say it much about where she did her primary. But most of the age mates of ours have been to UPE schools. We are probably the pioneers of UPE. They could have its own challenges, and that's a matter of fact. Just like all schools have their challenges. We have been to international schools, not as students, but as facilitators. We have been to posh schools. They have their challenges. We just have to appreciate who we are and make the best out of it. And that's the whole point. However, we should be able to make our promise and live up to it, that we are supposed to protect children, because that's the best guarantee we can take for the kids. Kids are supposed to be protected, Robert and Philo.
I mean, they can only
You can't
do so
expose
much.
them. Yes. Let me give you something. Like last time, and I think we have had a discussion about the same with Robert here on TV. You find, and this is majorly women, you find a woman beating a 3-year-old for what? For probably breaking a cup or a glass or something. And that's how it starts. You need to and this is, I think, just like people are going to get married, there's normally a class we go to, it's called Tuesday class. I don't know if you've heard of it. They tell you about, it's not that much, but of course there are things that you will hear and you're like, okay. I think for also people are going to give birth, we need to prepare classes.
My brother Felix. Felix.
Because if you're carrying something for 9 months, let's spare 2 months to teach you about, but we are having problems with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, every rabbit, goat is giving birth. And I think by virtue of being a woman doesn't qualify you to mother a child.
Well, if we were actually to take that approach, Felix, then would really have to go deep into even looking at the circumstances
We may
under
have to
which
do
these
that,
people
Philo.
get pregnant. Yes.
Maybe that, now
Children
that would
by
make
chance,
sense.
not by choice.
Yeah, you'll find
They
children
just-
giving birth to children.
That's
Yes.
exactly. and
I
now
guess we'd have to
we
address
must get
right
into
from
that,
that point.
discussion, Philo.
But you see, how do we get into that discussion if we've not gone back to look at the smallest yet most powerful element of society, which is family, today which has been torn apart, you know, because every child, we want to believe, should be coming from a family.
I mean,
Should be coming from a family.
no, but there are two things you must not mistake. What's a family?
A family is a, now we would look at it as
Is a
grouping.
family man and woman giving birth? Is that a family?
Absolutely.
It's bigger than that,
It's
Robert.
bigger than that,
Yeah,
yes.
honestly. So when you say everyone must be coming from, a family is a
That's an-
structured existence. There must be structures. And this is the argument, again, we have been having, that once you meet a partner, put some structures, because structures help raise. For example, what do we mean by structures to form a family? You must have what we call responsibilities. You must have accountability. Responsibilities bring into accountability. Now,
And the capacity to look after the children,
that's,
really.
that's
You cannot just
accountability.
afford,
Yeah,
yes,
you're
to
not
get
just going to
pregnant
come
and- yeah.
home because you're a man and waving your manhood around. I mean, it must be more than that. That's response. Now, family is not something that is just about giving, but we must have structures. And that's why the institutions also, when you're having a fight against child labor, we must bring into play or into account the churches. Religious institutions must assist us. So all this the discussion is quite broad. In fact, today I would want to take keen interest in hearing what would be said by the leaders.
But
both
also
in
for
church
me,
culture
Felix and
Yes.
Philo, there's something I feel we are all getting lost. And sometimes when you look at purpose of these days, I think over the years we've been celebrating them, and now they are becoming more of a bandwagon of something we just do. Because I've attended some conferences where at least you come out with, is it a communique, you know, or recommendations, or a report. And you say, at least this is what, after this conference, the deliberations, this we are going to take to Parliament, this we are going to give police, the people that be. Then if they find this relevant, or we shall continue advocating for them. But you know, many of these days, and I don't need to be taken bad faith, but it's like we have dignitaries come, statements, speeches read, eating, drinking, some get allowances.
And that's
obtained.
why I told you that we need to have
we need to reshape.
substantial and we need to have
Yes.
evidence-based
Just to
efforts.
say,
Yes.
International Day, Fetuli Kororo, Fetuli, you know, at the end of the day, what comes out? Do we get a communique? Do we get pledges? Do we get action to be done? Or is it because we are saying we are a member of a global forum, which day is celebrated, let's have money for this day? Rather than saying we are going there, and at the end of the day it is big kaza. It doesn't
Well-
make sense. We need to see how best the monies we spend on these days. Because these days, sometimes, international days that we celebrate here, there's a lot of money released for them. But what benefit are they? Why don't we simply say someone will sit in an office, have a live or whatever, then we use this money for things that are going to help. Look at street children every day when we are driving home. These children, they seem no more to abamanyira. Who is saying we have to do this?
Well, this is a conversation that we'll continue having, and just like you, Robert, I cannot wait to see what is there to show for what we have done as Ugandans, as our leaders to protect the children. How far have we come from the time this day was initiated back in 2002? The progress, what does it look like 10 years down the road? Well, we'll look at some of our big stories in the dailies, again, looking at the Daily Nation and the Citizen. Now, over there in Kenya, Ruto following in Uhuru's footsteps. Now, what do they mean by this? You will find that in the Daily Nation. Traders protest at Kenya's ban on milk imports from Uganda. We are back at it. And again, another story that you should be interesting yourself in this morning. Boys to Men concert, the hits and misses. The show delivered and disappointed in equal measures. A full review of the Boys to Men, but this time around in Kenya. And looking at the return of COVID, Kenyans urged to be careful as hospitals report more COVID-19 cases. And give us more cash, says principals after release of 24 billion Kenyan shillings. That cash, what is it going to do? Well, you can find that in the Daily Nation. Well, crossing over to the Citizen, sunflower oil is exportable, government clarifies, and how scarcity of resources is hampering urban planning, and Michael Shrima's roller coaster journey in aviation, and finally, why production of cloves has plunged in Zanzibar. Daily Nation, Daily Monitor, The Citizen, and The New Vision for you to consider this morning, to catch up on many more stories as we progress on to the next item this morning on Good Morning Uganda. Mollen will be coming in with more updates on weather and climate, and of course not forgetting the traffic updates. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
This is the University of Africa. On the streets, you get your real education. Here, everybody has a degree of something. But the most important qualification is imagination. Her reason to imagine is slay. His reason is to be the GOAT. Theirs is to take the beat and make it lit. They want to test edgy until it is fire. Their reason for imagination is to add riz in style. Her reason to imagine is finesse. And hers is to find what's new and bussin'. So no matter what your situation, just use your imagination.
That's right. Insist on getting your e-receipt. It's your ticket to fantastic prizes, including motorbikes, laptops, fridges, and a fully paid 6-day safari for 2 in Uganda. Take a picture of your e-receipt, upload it to the URA website or mobile app, and you could be the lucky winner. The more receipts you upload, the higher your chances of winning. Terms and conditions apply. More details on our social media channels.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together. Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Gatawo with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning, Uganda. Right now, I want to take you on the roads. We'll be looking at the traffic situation, looking at some of the roads that are joining the city center here in Kampala, and obviously how you can navigate across most of those areas. We're looking at if you're coming in from Bogolobi, if you're coming in from Chisasi, some of the areas that can be quite okay for you to use this morning. Also from Nakawa, Ntinda, and Kulambi. We're looking at most of those roads being quite clear. If you're coming in from Tinda, so some of those actually that are joining in into going onto the Kampala-Jinja Highway, some of those roads are actually clear. Tinda Road, you're also looking at very clear traffic for this morning, so that should be easy for you to navigate. Also, if you're looking at Chinawataka Road, joining into Nakawa-Jinja Road as well, you do have clear traffic over there. That should be quite okay. Although there is a little bit of traffic that is building up, if you're coming in from the side of Nakawa, that is, if you're joining into the Kampala-Jinja Highway, you might need to consider that there is a little bit of traffic that is building up over there as you move from Ntinda Road onto the main highway. So that is one you should be looking out for. But then that actually does continue onto the Kampala-Jinja Highway, and still with intense traffic over there indicated by the red lines. Then you get to Katalima Road. That is, if you're coming in from the side of Naguru, that should be easy for you to navigate. There is quite some clear traffic indicated by the green lines, so that should get you onto the main highway quite okay. But then again, there is still intense traffic over the Kampala-Jinja Highway. It does stretch all the way from the side that joins in Katalima Road, cutting across. So that should be really quite for you to consider. Newport Bell Road as well, we're looking at traffic building up over there, and it is also stretching as you join onto the Kampala-Jinja Highway. That should be one that you can look out for this morning. Away from that, we also want to look at the weather updates for this morning. We'll be tapping in from the satellites, look at what we're expecting for today. But what is happening across the country right now, we're looking at mostly cloudy weather across the northern part of the country, and that is going all the way from the northwestern. You look at areas of Arua, Yumbe, crossing over onto the central north where you have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, Apache as well. We're starting off quite cloudy. That is indicated by the white colors right there over the map. We're also looking at a huge system that is building up towards southwestern Uganda, that is extending towards the Albert region. That will be bringing in rains also for later, looking at mostly areas of Fort Portal, also the Renzori area, so we could be looking at rains. But then again, we do have a forecast that is coming in this morning from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority. We'll be looking at that and see what we're expecting today across several places, but also for areas that we expect temperatures to be quite warm for today, especially those where we're expecting sunny weather. We'll be looking into that forecast and of course also tell you the likely advisory considering this kind of forecast. Looking at the central parts of Lake Victoria Basin, we are forecasting isolated showers. Those will be coming in later as the morning progresses into afternoon. We're looking at areas of Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. Though that should really be coming in across several places, so you should be aware and take the necessary precautions. Also for the western part of Lake Victoria, Masaka, Kalisi, Zosembabli and Rakai, we are forecasting sunny intervals that will be starting off with quite a hot one, that is at 28 degrees centigrade. Although in the afternoon we do expect that we will have a few rains come through over that area, and that should help to bring temperatures a bit down. Similar weather is forecast for southwestern Uganda. We're looking at Mbara, Ibanda, Ushenyi and Rubirizi, where we'll also be having quite a warm one, starting off at 28 degrees. Across the Elgon region, we are likely to have isolated showers that will be starting off with a 25 degrees centigrade, quite chilly. That should be coming in later as the morning progresses. Also, that system is likely to continue into the afternoon, so it should actually be a rainy one over there as we talk about the Elgon region. Now, across the eastern part of that is Lake Victoria Basin, Tororo, Busia, Iganga, also looking at Jinja, we're likely to have those rains come through that will be across several places within that region. Also, those are likely to also cross over into the afternoon. Now we're looking at eastern Uganda, talking about Soroti, Katakwi, we have Amuria and Kumi. We are forecasting sunny intervals. That will be a mix of clouds and sunshine, and that is expected to prevail throughout the morning. Also starting off quite hot, that is at 28 degrees centigrade. We're looking at the eastern part of Central, that is across Ruero, Woblenzi, Bururi and Nakaseke. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, and that is going to be starting off quite warm as well. That is at 28 degrees. Now, we're also looking at the central part of northern Uganda. We already have clouds that are building up over there. Those will be bringing in rains for several places, but temperatures a little bit warm at 28 degrees. Also, that system is expected to continue into the afternoon, so that is one to look out for, especially if you're going to be around that area or if you are traveling to the central part of northern Uganda. Well, we also want to look at what is happening crossing borders, and we continue to see raging wildfires across California and also parts of Canada. And also the report that is coming through this morning from Quebec is indicating that these wildfires are actually raging and increasing, taking on more hectares of land. And obviously, we are looking at now what we could be looking at, especially in terms of the fire season, because this is not the first time that Canada is dealing with this kind of wildfires. These usually spread for this time of the year. However, the intensity only keeps increasing, and this time we're looking at a number of those raging out of control. That is Quebec, which by Sunday the firefighters in the Canadian province were also talking about the fact that they have been struggling with this. Controlling the wildfires has been quite a challenge, and obviously we also did see news coming in from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation reporting a number of casualties that have been affected by these wildfires. Now, according to the report, Canada is enduring its worst ever spring fire season with 431 active fires as of Sunday. And obviously, according to the Forest Fire Center, they are also saying that around 1,200 firefighters have been involved in putting out the blazes. However, this has not been enough effort because we still see more of those. Also, government meteorologists are forecasting that this could actually spring through into Tuesday in most of the areas. And we're also looking at provinces like Alberta, where the government did put up another red alert that is warning that more fires will be spreading, and of course looking at the increase in that. And they have put across evacuations that those have been going on from last week into this week, and that is looking at about 20 kilometers 200 kilometers from Alberta. All those areas have been advised to evacuate. And obviously the reports that are coming through also from the Meteorological Agency, but also the climate experts are saying that this intensity is obviously connected to the fact that we have a changing climate, meaning that the temperatures that we are having now across the areas are fueling more wildfires, more outbreaks for wildfires, which is what we're seeing across Canada and also most areas within California. A lot of states that have been reporting these wildfires over the years. But also we want to look at when we talk about intensity and linking most of these extreme events to climate change, we look at what countries have been able to do, especially in terms of curbing the virus, because we talk about especially fossil fuels that have been a bad way that we're getting more gases into the atmosphere, henceforth increasing the temperatures, and obviously this is relating to the extreme weather events that we are seeing. Now what did come through is that there have been talks going on, especially around the fact that we are going to, most of the countries and fuel companies have agreed to, move to the green energy or look at using less polluting energy. But then again, there has been also a target. This was done by the EU, but most of the bringing aboard about 112 fossil fuel companies that have now committed to reaching net zero. Well, this was Sunday last night into Monday, where they did look at how they can now bring these emissions to ground, and of course looking at the net zero. And we're talking about a plan that has been in the building since that is COP26 in the UK. But if you look at most of these companies also, the transparency has not been there. We don't know how far their targets are going, which is why right now most people are saying that this report could be looking at largely meaningless targets that are coming in from these companies. Most of them are looking to make a name, but in actual sense the targets or the commitments that they are putting across are not allowing for the actual net zero. As it stands, some 4,000 countries, states, regions, cities and companies globally have now committed to a net zero, and that was also from last November when the UN issued what is good net zero strategy should be looking like, and of course talking about avoiding greenwashing. But we haven't seen yet a huge move from fossil fuel companies or even looking at companies that are providing guidelines. And this was also a statement that was said by Thomas Hale at the University of Oxford, who also co-authored the report that came out at that moment, that is last November, from the UN, looking at what the IPCC recommended, that is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So meaning that, yes, the report did come out and still indicating that the temperatures are rising, the climate is changing. What we need to do is double down and stop the use of fossil fuels. But then again, that required a timeline to give these companies a swift line for them to phase out. But none of them have come out to actually give out clear targets on how they're going to do that. So that means that our efforts towards eliminating the climate crisis is still not enough. And we also expect that by the time we get to November, when we will have another UN climate conference, global climate conference, at least most of these companies or even global leaders can push across to see that we have ambitious targets that will get us from these catastrophic events that are related to climate change. Of course, today we're talking about the wildfires and the intensity, but we know that we also still have a lot that we are dealing with in terms of flooding, in terms of droughts. Just recently, we know that the drought across the Greater Horn of Africa is still raging, especially across Somalia and parts of Ethiopia. So all these are linked to actions that are done. Even if it is an action done in China or the US, it's still going to affect all of us equally. So that's the challenge right there. Well, I'll leave it at that. We will have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming in right after this. Later than that, we'll also be talking sports. And of course, at the top of the hour, we'll be looking at Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a wonderful Monday.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
This isn't just a girl. She is the future. This is a teacher, a doctor, a community leader, our future president.
This is our family's pride.
This is my friend.
This is the future of our nation.
She is the future of Uganda, and the policies I enact today will protect her from teenage pregnancy.
She is the hope of our community, and I will talk to others about how we must protect her.
She is our family's pride, and I will protect her from child marriage and talk to her about the dangers of teenage pregnancy. We each have a role to play in empowering our teenage girls to protect them from child marriage and pregnancy, because when we empower them, we empower our nation. Protect the girl, save the nation.
Their support meant so much to me. I stayed focused and was protected from child marriage and teenage pregnancy. I will support other girls against child marriage and teenage pregnancy.
Take action. Report any case of defilement or child marriage to the police or call Sawuti 116.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome to the agenda session. Today is Monday, 12th of June. The year is 2023. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Very happy to be with you as we start off the week. And of course, again, allow me to welcome you back from the weekend. Quite a very busy one and very engaging for very many of us. But I must say that the week is not going to be any different, especially now when you hear most conversations running along the lines of money, finances, and the budget. Now, we are expecting the budget to be read come Thursday, just a few days from now. We're looking at the financial year of 2023-2024. We know that currently, at least from the estimates we've seen, what Parliament has finally come out with, we are standing at 52 trillion Ugandan shillings. And of course, we have seen very many ministries come out to raise their complaints where the cuts have been projected or where they have been actually registered. We have seen where they have remained a bit standard. We have seen where they've gone slightly higher than before. And there is a lot of scrutiny that has gone around, especially concerning this budget. Well, this morning, the conversation is not going to be any different. We'll be talking about the financial budget of 2023-2024. And I'm very happy to be with Julius Mukunda from the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, our usual guest here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Julius.
Thank you so much.
Always happy to have you here talking about money and the budget.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Well, we'll be looking into the budget allocations for 2023-2024, and also very important to note that recently we had revisions that were made to this budget previously, as it was standing at 51 trillion, and now we're looking at 52 trillion shillings. But according to the revised estimates, we did see a number of items that required an increase in all of this, and we'll be breaking them down for you. So let us know how you feel about this budget. As a Ugandan, it does concern you. How does it sit well? Does it sit well with you? What are your concerns about this budget? Go on and let us know. Get into our social media pages, Twitter, #UBCGMU, and I do implore you to also use our WhatsApp platform, the number being 0709 602 592. Before we get even into all these revised estimates, and again, one other thing I would also love for us to focus on is that specific budget that is that has been given to State House, which has caused a lot of uproar. We'll be looking into all of that. But before we get there, Julius, how do you feel about this budget? We are now looking at 52 trillion Ugandan shillings.
I mean, if somebody is going to spend 52.7 trillion shillings, you must be optimistic that somehow, somewhere, some things will definitely fall down. I'm optimistic, despite the challenges that we face as a country. I'm optimistic because there are allocations that we feel that really are going directly to the people. Now, whether they will reach the people, that's a different debate.
Yes.
I think that's the challenge. I tell you that, you know, you have a very good plan, you have a very good budget, priorities are very clear and set. But I think when it comes to take another step, that's where the challenges are. So the budget, the way it is, I can tell you is, it has areas that I feel very strongly about, that they will definitely address the ordinary person's issues. Take, for example, you have money for PDM, 1 trillion. And I was with colleagues and was saying, okay, what is 100 million to a parish? You can even cause inflation. I mean, in a parish, really, you can easily cause inflation in a parish.
Yes.
So if you're in a sub-county and you have 10 parishes, for heaven's sake, that's 2 billion in a parish. If you're a district and you have, 20, 30 parishes, that's a huge amount of money. So from that perspective, I'm optimistic. You have money, you have 1.7 trillion going for agriculture. You would really expect that this money should go and revolutionize this particular sector. Of course, sometimes you want more than what they have given, and it is normal. It is normal. I
feel like there is no ministry that has ever been with what has been allocated.
Even when you have increased, they will say, please give us more.
Yes.
But I think the challenge we have is to be, can you account for the little that we have got? I think that's where we lose it out. So I'm really very optimistic, and I urge all Ugandans that we have started the National Budget Month. This is a partnership between the civil society in Uganda and also the government to publicize the event, so that every Ugandan across the country, there are so many radio talk shows. In fact, almost in every district, you find a talk show talking about the national budget.
Yes.
Please listen in. Like today we are. Let's listen in and understand what is in for everybody, so that you know actually whether you are in or
you're
you are
not
out.
included.
And then you begin to plan. Yes. So I'm optimistic that we have something in the budget.
Okay. Now, according to the revised estimates, items that require an increase in resources, we did actually see external financing. We looked at things like the treasury operations. We looked at non-tax revenue and even local revenue. In fact, the estimates here are coming in from government providing about 254 billion to treasury operations towards reducing government's liability with the central bank. But also looking at another item here that that is a big beneficiary of the revised budget, that is the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife, and and the other time we talked about it, how they were not exactly happy with how the slashes had been made to their budgets. They did receive an additional of about 33.3 billion Uganda shillings, an excess of non-tax revenue collected back in 2021, 2022 financial year. But when you look at all these specific areas, do you feel like they actually needed the increment, especially when the revisions were made?
I mean, you could have asked if you are the Minister of Finance.
Yes.
What would you do?
What would you do actually?
Yes,
in a case like this?
I would turn in a few things upside down. I mean, again, treasury operations. I mean, they're around. I think they're around like 18 around 18 trillion actually.
Yes.
But let's break it down easily for people to understand. You see, you have 52 trillion budget, 52.7 trillion.
Yes.
Now, before you touch it, you must pay your debt obligations. And according to the parliamentary report we've seen, which is the current figure we are using, 27.2 of that money will definitely disappear into debt obligations. And our debt obligations include our external debt, our domestic refinancing, domestic debt, interest payment, Bank of Uganda debt, all that. You have to pay that. So when you get 52 minus 27, you remain with 25 point something. Now, out of 25, we've looked at a component called statutory expenses. And statutory expenses, these are expenses charged on the consolidated fund, and they are not a matter for debate in the Parliament or for appropriation in the Parliament. So, for example, Parliament cannot debate to reduce the salary of a president.
Absolutely
No,
not.
you can't.
Yes.
Parliament cannot debate to reduce the salary of the Chief Justice or the Speaker. No, it can't do that because they call them statutory. They are already in the law. You can't change that. So it's around 21 trillion, but when you remove, because part of it is debt, but when you remove debt, we'll be calculating a figure of around 2.1 trillion. So out of the 25 that you already have now that is remaining, that's statutory. So the current budget that the government of Uganda has in its own hand is around 23 trillion to spend on me and you. That's we call it a fiscal space. That's they have now to give out on their own. So when you have that, then the pressure will increase on who should take the priority list and who is the lower list. So first and foremost, of course, human capital development is taking the biggest chunk of the budget. And I commend the government for that. That education and health is a key priority for government, and that's where they are putting their money. That's where you find it. Then you have issues around infrastructure. You have issues around agro-industrialization, the one I'm talking about. And then the tourism and mindset change come very last.
Yes, very last. I mean, even looking at the revisions, that's where they had to be brought
They come very last. So what is it that you want an ordinary person to look at in the budget? Now, first and foremost, of course, we've talked about PDM. I think that's, for me, the very important part. We are seeing the funding for NMS around half a trillion Ugandan shillings, National Medical Stores.
Yes.
We are seeing money for district, urban, and the community access roads. These are the roads within districts, community roads, connecting the rest. Those are things that are very close to an ordinary person. And of course, with the school program, there is capitation grant. There is building of new schools, building of new health centers. Those are things that matter for people in the town. People in Kampala, I mean, there is KCCA, which has a huge project that is going to run, that is going to help us fix some of the potholes. So you have this little money, and therefore you are asking yourself, what should I spend on, and what should I spend on? And that's why you find people are really agitated about State House budget.
Yes.
And because people feel that there are other more important things to do. And I have always challenged the State House. The problem is their own making. Because they have decided to take on activities of certain ministries and take it to State House.
Yes.
And that means that
duplication of roles and
duplication of roles and expenses. And that means that their budget is going to increase. So if you take on the role of anti-corruption, which is a premise for IGG, CID, Auditor General, we have these institutions that are supposed to do it, and you take it on. It means your budget is definitely going to increase. The State House budget is going to increase. So it does not necessarily mean that this is money for the president for him to run around. No. It means that it is going to those particular areas.
Yes.
They have poverty alleviation programs. You would expect that poverty should go to either Ministry of Gender or Ministry of Finance or local government. But those programs are there.
You're looking at cases of land grabbing. You're looking at cases of
land.
investment.
So it is another mini government within a government. And definitely it brings a huge an interest to the public on what they are spending on. And I think I saw even one where they're saying that the president was spending across 500 million on his attire.
Yes.
But when you break it down and see where this money is going, they have a whole skilling program where they are supposed to buy uniforms, where they're supposed to buy furniture for those programs, not just
the president,
not just for the president.
Going for the,
yes.
Yeah.
So then, because of that, then the money definitely have to shoot up. So those are the areas you would say, if we would have rationalized agencies, and I'm glad the president talked about in State of the Nation address, that if we rationalize agencies, we wouldn't be having those areas. Actually, we would not be complaining that ministries are under budgeted. No. Ministries will actually be having money because they are actually doing their mandate. Just imagine if today you hear that the role of marking exams is now in the State House. Definitely, UNEP will not have money for marking exams because the role of marking exams has been taken. Their mandate has been taken. So when we talk about rationalizing agencies, actually, it's not about combining these small units. It's rationalizing government. Because when you don't do it, we calculated and found out that actually we have a complete 1 trillion Ugandan shillings we can save if we rationalize agencies. So that's a low-hanging fruit for us to rationalize agencies. So number 2 for me is, you want, when you're setting priorities, you want to remove other unnecessary expenses. Now, there is this issue that has come up that we are going to spend 600 billion on buying condoms for a Kampala Road project. Now, I mean, my colleagues who have been arguing, they are saying, no, Julius, you are importing machines, you are importing, consultants say, why not buying condoms for this kind of road project? And of course they are important, but do you need to borrow money
to actually buy the condoms for this project? Yes.
And they can actually be even got from here. You don't need to borrow to do that. You can actually plan for it and make sure that it is done. So the priorities we set, and I was saying, there are those things that would really trim down, reallocate, restructure, and ensure that you invest particularly in those areas that can quickly boost the economy. So those are some of the things that we can fix.
Okay. Well, we're looking at the national budget and insight into the 2023-2024 budgetary allocations. And I did ask you, does the budget as it stands right now, 52 trillion Ugandan shillings, does this sit well with you as a Ugandan? Do you feel like the Ministry of Finance has done what it should be doing with the budget? Do you feel enough funds have been allocated to the most important sectors here in Uganda, those that actually contribute quite a lot? Continue letting us know. Get into our Twitter, #UBCGMU, and again, looking at our WhatsApp number 0709602592. Now, Julius, the budget is for us Ugandans, for the ordinary person. Do you feel like the way it stands right now, it actually appeals to the last person down there in the village? You did talk about the parish development model, which we know is quite very beneficial to very many people. But aside from that, do you feel like the other aspects have been sorted or allocated enough funds to be able to benefit the lowest of the lowest people?
Okay, like I said, I'm optimistic that definitely there is something, but I feel we could do better.
Yes.
I really feel we could do better. For example, I was looking at blood distribution, collection and distribution, and they have a shortfall of around 300 billion. And in my mind, I'm like, really, in this day and age, whether you are rich or poor, you need the blood. You need the blood in the hospital for standby. We've been told of stories whereby you conduct a cesarean, an operation in a health center, and you have no blood, the doctor is praying that he will not need blood. You know, we are just on prayers. You don't need blood because you don't have blood stock. So those are some of the things you want really to put in. I would really increase the budget for national medical stores to $1 trillion, for example, because the stories of an ordinary person going to health center and only you are being told that please go and look for medicine somewhere else. I mean, there are so many.
Very, very many.
So many and so huge. I would love to make some health center really more functional. That we have a story whereby, and I challenged the people who have been celebrating reviewing the NLM manifesto. You did not promise schools. You promised education. You did not promise health, health centers. No, you promised health, health person. So access to services is what you promised. So building health center, very nice and beautiful. And there are no doctors, there are no drugs, the machines are not working. That is not a health center on our part. You need to make it more functional. I would really want to see that, for example, the industrial area, where we generate most of the money, that we don't have a single pothole there, because that's where the money is coming from. So it is easier for somebody to bring in his raw products, produce them, and then they get out. So you really need to squeeze that. And also, I think one of the things we could do is the salary review committee, because you see, almost every year you have these industrial strikes. Every year. Every year, yes. Everybody's asking, I want my salary to be increased. And I can tell you, at the end of the day, it's not because actually that we know salaries are not enough, but it's because of disparities within our salary structure. I can't be a commissioner earning 2.5 trillion and then I'm supervising somebody who's earning 40 trillion. I mean 40 million. So those kind of disparities tend to make the employers of agencies to be a bit uneasy. So I would definitely want to see more public servants having a rationalized salary structure, so that you stop that, because any strike in the Mollen, I'm telling you, costs lives of people. Yes. You want definitely to have that one out. So those are some of the the changes you want to see in the budget being run. I would also try to ensure that we improve on our absorption capacity. You know, sometimes it's shocking that the challenges in this country is because of is not because of lack of money. No, they actually give you money and you fail to spend it.
I mean, we have seen very many ministries bring back money to the consolidated fund, and we are wondering. And then next year they say no, you didn't give us enough money. But what causes that? You ask yourself, okay, yes, surely money was given to you. You returned it back. You couldn't even utilize it. But because we feel like there are very many gaps. I've heard of districts where, I mean, they have money. They even return money for wage, money for employing people. It is returned back. Simply because they say money time received was received late. But some of these districts don't have district service commissions to interview people. So definitely you have no structure to interview, to put people on the payroll. And money will come back. Some people you are given the money, but as you start implementing, you had never planned how the project is going to run. To the extent that once you start, for example, any project, the right of way, you find that someone who had promised to give you land, that the project is going to be put on. At the end, he said, I had promised that you give me 10 million, now I want 100 million. A project cannot start like that. So before even you put a pen on a contract, you need to ensure that you have a right of way. Yes. And then that's when you can plan. So money comes back. So, and that's a cost to the taxpayer, by the way, because when you put in numbers, for the last 5 years, we have spent around 395 billion on uncommitted on commitment fees. Commitment fees is the amount of money you pay on a loan you signed, but you have not used it. Yes. So you are penalized for not using the money. So you really also want to build the capacity of your civil servants on how they can execute projects on time and on budget. Yes. And as long as we don't do that, we'll keep on
definitely losing a lot of money.
Well, looking at this budget, Julius, in Parliament, there was a lot of uproar again coming in, especially from the opposition side, talking about how this budget is overly ambitious. And they were talking about Uganda's or the government or whichever, whoever is in charge of ensuring that it is funded. They were really shooting themselves in the foot, believing that this is not a budget that can work for an economy like ours. Do you think that is true? Are we overly estimating it, or we are trying
to a degree, I think, but not to that extent. First of all, is that the economy is growing. I mean, we were on 3.5, it went 4.7. Now we are here at 5.6, and we're projecting even more, even more growth. So based on that, the economy is growing, and therefore government, with that projection, has decided to also to have an ambitious budget. But even when it is ambitious, I think is a question of where the biggest chunk of the money is going.
Yes.
You are paying back more to debt, but not all the money is really into the economy. The 52 trillion is not being put into the economy. So that is where the catch is. But in my own assessment, really, I would have loved to see, because the business community really is stressed. The business community is stressed. We have not gone back to the former production levels that we were on pre-COVID period. So you would want to give them some space in terms of taxes, for example, in terms of ensuring that the business environment has improved. Yes. You don't need to spend more time. You'd want to put up, affordable credit, so that you give them that breathing space. And I think they haven't got that.
So the business community may not exactly be favored by this budget.
The business community are going to have a bit more difficulty because the first thing in a business community is the payment of taxes.
Yes.
And any tax pressed on the business definitely it's also pressed on the production cost. What we have been asking URA is let us have more people in the taxation bracket. Because if you have only 3 million people in the taxpayers register, out of probably, we are 45 trillion, maybe remove half of that to be youth, maybe the youth are not employed, and you have like 20 million. You'd really want to see more people in the tax register paying their taxes. That's number one. Number two is to ensure that every person pays their fair share of taxes. And I'm glad that last week URA was launching an app on e-receipt. But you see, for example, the supermarket, big supermarkets are a target of URA.
Yes.
IFRIS. The smaller supermarket are not a target of URA. Because Mama Nachi, on Mama Nachi supermarket,
yes,
goes to school where the same supermarket, big supermarket, buys products. But Mama Nachi is not on the URA register. So he's going to sell the same price, the same product at a different price than a supermarket. And considering that the conditions are very tight these days,
yes,
you find that most customers are likely to be going to pass by Mama Nach to pick the product as they are going home. So they no longer pass through the supermarkets. So the sales in the supermarkets would definitely decrease. And I don't know if you have noticed, if you go to supermarkets overlate, you could see some spaces within the shelves.
Yes. Oh,
and
yes.
Yes. And in a supermarket, if you begin to see spaces, you know that they are selling less than what they previously used to do. So you want everybody, including Mama Nach, to be part of the taxation bracket, so that where you buy, you don't distort the market, and everybody and the space is competitive for everybody. So I think that's very key and very important. If you are building a house, you are buying the same cement at the same price. But you who is in Kampala, you are more target of rental tax.
Yes.
Me who is in Kapchorga probably, I'm not a target of rental tax. Because URA hasn't reached there. So, and we're telling them you need to work with the districts. give them a commission and say, please, if you collect more rental fees, we can actually give you a commission for collecting that. That makes you make sure that everybody is within the taxation burden. So that me and you, the tax burden we have also is spread and it reduces. And that's how you can really improve the business environment. For affordable credit, the government has put up a 200 billion SME recovery fund, which is not functional well. I think they are functioning around even less than 5%. Why? Because the condition attached to it. You know, bring 2-year audit report. You must show a number of things. Now, what we have found that most businesses in Uganda are informal.
Oh yes, the informal sector.
Informal sector. When you say an audit report, I mean, 90% are already knocked off. But also government is is placed between the hard place and the rock, because you don't want to give money to somebody who has no physical address, no experience in the business.
They call them what? The
briefcase business.
Yes, the briefcase business.
And you give them the loan, the guy just buys the one-way ticket to Europe and he doesn't come back. So you lose money. So, but what do you need to do? So those kind of people also must have their own packages.
Yes.
That's why you see banks, when now they said, it's not about the corato. You can also do a group loan.
Yes.
So that now you reduce the risk and you put it on the group instead of one individual.
One individual.
So we need to be more creative and see how we can target how people can access these products, but also encouraging them to formalize. Because if you have the biggest your biggest sector is informal, and you still pretend that you are formal, I mean, then you will still remain the way you are.
Well, I do have a couple of questions. I have a lady here, Gloria. She's asking, but how do we manage to have efficient accountability from all these ministries, departments, and agencies, seeing as our budget is growing, but we are not seeing more service being delivered by these ministries and departments?
That's a very, very good and valid question. At the end of the day, I think that's where we all worry. We become optimistic, we do good things, but when it comes to what is delivered, then you don't see it. Because there is the monster in this room, it's called corruption.
Yes.
And I don't know what the president wants to do, corruption. And
the president has very many units to fight corruption from all angles, and it's still frustrating.
What we are trying to fight is the one that is upper, but there is the underlying one. Corruption these days is planned for, is budgeted for, is legislated and appropriated by parliament and executed by different government departments.
Yes.
So it becomes a bit illegal. Because if I put in the budget that I'm going to buy this pen at 10,000 Ugandan shillings, it is in the budget. Parliament will pass it. I will go and buy the 10,000 Ugandan shillings.
Yes.
Yet on the market, this pen is 1,000.
Is 1,000 Ugandan shillings.
So there is no way I'm going to start harassing me why I bought pens of 10,000 Ugandan shillings, because I budgeted for it, Parliament approved it. In fact, we might even by choosing of buying this pen at a less price than you have budgeted. One time I heard that the Auditor General was querying the office of the Speaker why the Speaker was traveling business class, not first class. you see that?
Yes.
So that's how we're saying that until government of Uganda decides and says that as a government, this is a kind of pen we will buy. Those are, we call them service delivery standards. Until we say that for us a pen in Uganda, to provide the government a pen, we should buy it at 1,000, then corruption in this country will definitely be more complicated and more sophisticated.
Well, I have another question here coming in from a viewer who is saying, there is one issue where we are allocating more monies to politics as opposed to what should be done. Looking at money being poured in several districts for different functions that we're having there, you don't know where some of these budgets are coming from. So, and they're asking, is there a separate budget that is slated for all these organizations or events that we're already celebrating? And they give case in point Bukedea and Soroti City. Where does that money, by the way, come from?
No, it is from the concerted fund. It's called the national celebrations.
National celebrations,
yes.
And they believe that the budget has to be cut down a bit on that one as well.
No, we shouldn't have money for that. Budget.
Yeah.
We shouldn't budget for national celebration.
Yes.
During COVID, we never had these national celebrations. The president would address us on the screen, and it would be done. Why can't we do the same? So as a country, as a country growing up, I think you want to cut those celebrations out.
Yes.
You want. I'm told even when we come to national. When somebody is given a national burial, you know.
Yes, the state burial. Yes.
You are spending not even less than 500 million Ugandan shillings on the person. I would wish that 500 Ugandan shillings, you would construct a health center in the memory of that important person. I think it would even be more advantageous for that. So Ugandans, I think for me, is that the responsibility is between me and you. To monitor even the little that has come so that it is not eaten. That borehole is yours. that health center is yours. No politician, like the IGG said, no politician is going to die in Marago. It is only me and you, so please.
Julius, as we come close to the end of this, how much authority do Ugandans have in this?
I can tell you we have so much.
We need to understand. No, I think we don't understand the power we have.
The power we have is enormous.
Yes.
I can tell you. It's enormous. That if you go in a primary school and they find they have not displayed the budget, you complain to the district education officer. If he can't work, you go to the cow. If it can't work, you call the PSST, Minister of Finance, that the budget of primary school X is not being displayed, so to monitor to see who is getting what. We have enormous power, except we are unable to use it.
Yes.
If we, I'm telling you, I was telling PDM, let PDM go to the village. Don't worry that it's going to be eaten. Let it be eaten at the village level. But I can tell you, accountability at the village level is far, far more effective than if you want to demand accountability at the Ministry of Finance. Because in the village level, you know who is who in your village and who is not there. So I'm really urging Ugandans, wherever you are, get interested in this budget. The whole of this week we are debating the budget. Get interested. If you want to know even the money for your district, there is a budget website. That's how far we have gone. Budget website. You just say Google, say budget Uganda. It will give you a website showing you all the money that the government is spending on each and everything. You will find it there. So wake up and demand accountability.
Well, in case you thought the budget doesn't concern you, it absolutely has everything to do with you 100%, and it is your responsibility to know where you have been, whether you have been included in this budget. Remember that on Thursday we'll be having the reading of the national budget of 2023-2024, and this morning we were going through some of the allocations where we put so much, where we probably didn't put enough with Julius here. Thank you so much for joining us, Julius.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure on Thursday you'll be there ready.
Oh yes, I'll be there.
Well, we can't wait to see what will be coming from there, but obviously here on UBC we'll be updating you. We still have a lot coming up. We do have Ruben Mpima Chibirango coming through with more on sports, giving you all the highlights that happened over the weekend, and we'll be having a Good Morning Uganda Extra coming in right after that. I am Philomena Mastiko. Have a wonderful Monday and a productive week ahead. Good morning.